Hey guys, Big Anthony here. It is Saturday, March 6th, 2021. Welcome to my BitChute channel. I'm glad and thankful for the 24 subscribers that I have so far. For those of you that know me on YouTube, you know me as Bibles and Barbells, where I have about 20,000 subscribers. I've been operating on YouTube since early 2009. The channel there started out as actually started out as a Bible study. It was a group that met in my in my home in South Florida, and I took them through a Bible study, a workout where we worked out and studied the Bible together on a weekly basis. And then I began to do, different types of workout videos. I began to do some commentary. I began to do some prepping or preparedness videos, being that I lived in South Florida and I was preparing for hurricanes and natural disasters, things like that. I also, when I lived in Pittsburgh back in the 90s, I prepared for Y2K. So when I look back at my life, I was always preparing for something. And so prepping was kind of a natural, flowed naturally into my channel. So the Bibles and Barbells channel on YouTube I build it as like addressing mind, body, and spirit. So I had some videos addressing those three topics, if you will. And so over the years, I've compiled probably, I haven't looked, but probably just under 1,500 videos on my YouTube channel that you guys can go look at under the Bibles and Barbells name. But YouTube recently has become super strict as far as people that have conservative viewpoints that speak about, maybe topics that they don't want you speaking about. And so very recently they began to censor, and I was in YouTube jail recently for a post talking about something related to the COVID-19 vaccine. And so I decided to branch out a little bit after much thinking, and I decided to come on BitChute. I heard a little bit about the BitChute channel. I checked it out. I liked it. The format seems pretty good. The way to upload and everything seems pretty straightforward. It is. The only problem I'm having now, and you guys can tell me if it's a continual problem, is sometimes I'll upload videos and I've got to do it like 2 or 3 times before it even accepts it or uploads it. And there's several videos that I tried to post that I just deleted because they wouldn't post or activate. So I don't know if that's a problem with BitChute or I catch it on the wrong day. I'm not sure. But at any rate, I thought I would do this video, being that I put up some videos recently that were also on my YouTube channel or from my YouTube channel. I thought I'd make a video specifically for the BitChute community as I get more subscribers and I see how things go with the channel. I also started a Rumble channel where I only have like 3 videos up right now. I can't speak too much about Rumble right now. I haven't worked with it enough. But I do have an alternate channel there called Big Anthony as well. And I'm looking at some other avenues. If BitChute doesn't work out, we'll see where I could take the channel. So I'm doing this video right from home. Home is, just to give you a little bit of background, where I live now. I live in the Charlotte, North Carolina / South Carolina area. So the South Charlotte area that's very close to, let's say, Fort Mill, South Carolina, and Charlotte, the downtown Charlotte or Ballantyne area, which is just outside of downtown Charlotte. We've been here since April of 2017. Formerly, before that, we were in South Florida, the Fort Lauderdale area, more specifically Weston, Florida, The city of Weston's about 20 miles along Alligator Alley from Fort Lauderdale. A city of about 60,000 when I was there. Great city, great place to raise kids, beautiful. One of the most beautiful places in the country to actually bring up a family. It actually looks like a paradise there. So if you get a chance to look up Weston, Florida, you'll see what I'm talking about. So we spent about 17 years there. I worked originally at the University of Miami. That's why we relocated there from Pittsburgh, where we lived for 7 years before that. And then you could tell probably from my accent, which I still have, I'm originally from New York, born in the Bronx. Grew up in Westchester County in a town called Harrison, New York, in the kind of like the bedroom community of New York. And then from there, maybe I'm going a little off track here. Lived in New York till 94, moved to Pittsburgh, 94 through 2001. Lived in South Florida, relocated there for work. 2001, left there in 2017 to be in Charlotte, a little closer to family. And there was a lot of decisions that went into that, but I can make a separate video. But at any rate, we're here in the South Charlotte area, where we've been since 2017. I like it here. I do miss Florida. I miss the weather. I miss, the atmosphere. We haven't been fully we're not fully happy here and maybe it'll grow on us more, this area of the country. I like where it's located, how it's situated, and I could be, north, south, east, west. I could get to different places around the country, which is definitely a good plus. And that was one of the reasons why we moved here, because we felt being so far down south in South Florida, there was really nowhere to go in the event of something happening, an SHTF, what have you. So that played into our thinking on the move, on why we moved from South Florida. So I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of that background. So if anybody's new to BitChute and new to my channel, so basically I would consider myself now, politically speaking, I'm trying to be apolitical. I don't have much faith in the political process anymore. I will tell you, I am conservative. I am a believer. Some people would say they're Christian. I am a believer in Yeshua the Messiah, Jesus Christ. I don't belong to any denominational, denominations like Protestant, Methodist. I did at one time, but grew up Catholic. Attended a church in Florida where we were saved. It's called First Baptist in Weston, Florida. And so now I don't attended some Messianic churches, or Messianic congregations, excuse me. One here in South Charlotte that we like a lot. And now since the pandemic and since my wife has been sick, which I'll talk a little bit about, we've been attending services via, we watch it from home. Right now we're watching Arthur Bailey Ministries. They're out of Charlotte. They're like a Hebrew roots Messianic congregation. That's more in line with what I'm doing right now. So really following the word as it is written and not being associated with any denominations or creeds or other than what's in the Bible, both Old and New Testament. So that's where I sit spiritually. So all of my thinking and decisions are biblically based. So if you hear something out of me, if you hear a response from me, it's not going to be off the cuff, or it's going to be well thought out, and it's going to be in line with Scripture. If I'm out of line with Scripture, I'll be the first one to admit it. And so I think that's what is hurting some people on YouTube, like my channel, Bibles and Barbells. It's kind of been held down over the years. I've talked about some controversial topics, and I like to speak my mind. I like to call out people or government officials, if you will, politicians. Doesn't matter to me, left or right. And I thought YouTube, and for many years YouTube was a good avenue to do that, but like we've seen and we've witnessed over the years, or over this year particularly, that it's becoming harder and harder for conservative voices to let their voices be heard. I had a Twitter account for years, I dropped that. I have an Instagram account, if you guys are interested. It's called Pray, Prep, Pump, Iron. That's where I post a lot of like personal pictures and stuff like that. I even cleaned that up a little bit. They're kind of censoring on that channel as well. I think that's run by Facebook. I do have a Facebook page. I don't do too much on Facebook. That's really kind of just where I go to, a lot of my friends and family are on there. So that's kind of like an avenue where I could contact people and see what they're up to, talk to them via Facebook. But I don't do too much posting like this on Facebook. What else? So I am a prepper. I do believe in being ready for unforeseen circumstances or events. Now so even more. Last year we were caught in the pandemic. We found ourselves, and this is like a prepper's nightmare, being away from his home base and being somewhere else in the country when SHTF occurs. And that's exactly where I was last March when the lockdowns happened. My wife is battling her second brain tumor. She had surgery discovered the tumor back in 2015 in November. She had surgery to remove a tumor from her non-cancerous tumor from her pituitary gland in Miami, University of Miami Hospital. In early 2016, she recovered from that. When she recovered from that, we moved here to South Charlotte. She ended up, in the course of going back and getting tested and checked and MRIs, they found another tumor that's inoperable in an inoperable part of the brain, where now, last March, when the COVID lockdowns happened, we were up at receiving 6 weeks radiation treatment at Johns Hopkins Hospital, the Sibley campus, which is in D.C., not the main campus. So we had to spend just about 7 weeks of the lockdown initially while she was getting daily radiation treatment 5 days a week, Saturdays and Sundays off. And so we went through that through April, came back here to Charlotte area in April. I went back to work. She continued to recover from the radiation, which she still has some issues with. And so we're hoping and praying that her next MRI, which is coming up this June of 2021, that the radiation was successful in stopping the growth of the tumor that's in an area of her brain that's non-cancerous, but it's in an area where the eye nerves are. And since the radiation treatments, one of the things that happened to my wife was that she has lost about 20% of the vision in her left eye. And so that's been stable right now. It hasn't got any worse, hasn't got better. She lost that vision permanently. So we're hoping and praying that that doesn't get any worse and that the tumor is is stopped. The growth is stopped from the radiation. So they'll know more in June when she gets another MRI. So basically, she's been getting MRIs for the last every 6 months for a while now. So that's just a little bit of a snapshot on, and that it does affect how I do everything, how I approach everything. When we moved here to the Charlotte area, initially we wanted, like a farm or a house on a plot of land away from everything, and where I can, keep, maybe make a big garden, raise some chickens, do that whole kind of off the grid type thing. I had, was thinking along those lines. That's what I wanted to do. So a lot of times what we want to do and what we actually have to do are two different things. With my wife being sick and us not knowing how this was going to progress with her, I decided that it would be best for us to live, in a town that where we live is close to or walking distance to, shopping, stores, where if something happened to me, my wife would be close to an environment where she could just, walk out the door and get what she needed and get back home. In other words, be close to everything. So there's drawbacks to that because now you're living close to a lot of people in like a suburban environment versus living on a farm with a couple acres a little bit farther. Your neighbor's a little bit farther away, so you have more space. So what we plan to do and what we actually do are two different things because life throws you curveballs and you have to make decisions based on that. So we're living in this situation now, and so we're making the best of it. We love it. I mean, we like where we are and how we're living. We're both working. She went back to work part-time. I'm working full-time, thank God, still through the pandemic. Had not received, thought we were going to get pay cuts. Had not received a pay cut. Still working every day. Still keeping busy. Just so you know, I'm in the janitorial management business. I have been for over 30 years. Between New York, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Connecticut, South Florida, now Charlotte, and also Columbia, South Carolina. I've been all around other parts of the country as well in this type of business, managing everything from office complexes to college universities like the University of Miami, where I managed 500 people that maintained the whole entire campus and the off campuses and the hospitals at the University of Miami. Now I run a school district that's 30 schools, pre-K through 12. So you can imagine what we're going through with disinfecting and all that goes along with keeping schools open, safe to go to, safe for the students and teachers and faculty and staff. And so I have staff that works, from early in the morning till like 10 o'clock at night, different shifts. And then weekends we have projects and stuff going on. So basically my job in this business that I'm in is basically 24/7. So there's always something going on. So, but I'm thankful. I also owned 3 companies of my own in this business, janitorial business, in New York, in Pittsburgh, and in Florida. So I have a lot of experience. That's where I'm most comfortable. So if I was to look for a new job or move somewhere, I always gravitate towards some type of management or oversight in this field, the janitorial field. That's where most of my experience is. So, and it's also a good business to be in because it takes little to start one up. If you wanted to start something up like that, you need basically your business ID and license and a vacuum cleaner and a mop and bucket. And you can go knock on doors and get business. That's how I did it in New York when I started my own business. I used my wife's car. I had our home vacuum cleaner. I bought a bucket and a wringer, some small tools and mops and cleansers, and I got a couple of accounts, and then from there it grew while I still worked for larger companies. So That's a little bit about my background. Um, and so, in regards to prepping, I've always been, I don't want to use the word afraid, but I've always been weary of without being caught without being ready for a situation. In other words, if a storm hit and the lights went out and I didn't have a flashlight, or I didn't have enough water if the water went out, that is always in the back of my mind. That fear, I guess you'd call it, or a sense that you need to be ready in case of an emergency. Almost like driving a car and having a spare tire. If I was driving a car and it didn't have a spare tire, I would always have that uneasiness about me, even though you may not get a flat for weeks, months, years. You always have that uneasiness that, oh boy, if I get a flat, I'm out of luck here. So that's how I approach prepping. I think of different scenarios that could happen, like natural disasters or man-made disasters, or like what we're going through now with the COVID pandemic. And I say to myself, how can my family and me and those close to me with the same mindset, how can we thrive in an environment that has lost power or lost the ability to work or lost an income? How would I be able to function? What do I need as backup to be able to sustain myself and my family in an event that something bad or unforeseen happened? And so that's where you get into that prepping mindset, where you're looking at, the very basics, like shelter, of course. That's number one priority. That's your house, your RV, your townhome, your condo, whatever it is. That's your shelter. And then from there, you have to look at, okay, I have my shelter now. What about water? What about food? The basics. What do I need to survive every day? Hygiene. Lots of people don't think about hygiene. Well, what if I can't flush my toilet? Do I have a backup toilet? What if I can't get water from the tap? Can I filter water? Do I have a water storage backup? Can I collect it if rain comes? Can I filter that water? Can I make it safe to drink? Am I close enough to somewhere where I could gather water at night, bring it back home, filter it, make it ready to go? So all those things have to come into play when you're thinking about getting through a crisis. Look what happened in Texas recently, and now in Kentucky with the flooding in Kentucky, the loss of power in Texas, I believe also in Alabama and Tennessee, several other states. But Texas kind of rings a bell because it was so big and widespread, and the power companies were very close to going under. They were very close in Texas to a complete grid down scenario, which could have produced way, way more casualties than it did. The cold weather, coupled with the loss of power and water, is a recipe for disaster. I think back at Hurricane Sandy, when that hit up in the New York, New Jersey area, Connecticut, and that's where a lot of my relatives were, and they got hit hard. And a lot of preppers I knew up there were hit hard, and they talked about things of, not having that camaraderie with neighbors that they had just prior to the storm. Once neighbors knew that this was a long-term outage, it was every man for themselves. And so it wasn't, hey, we got lights are out for 12 hours, let's smoke cigars, drink beers, and barbecue. This was a survival type situation. That's what those people in Texas were faced with. That's what people around the country are being faced with now. You look at wildfires. In Florida, we had hurricanes. So that prepping mindset, those types of things, and the very basics like food and water and medical and hygiene that goes along with medical. Family member sick, needs insulin, needs some type of medication. Do I have it? Can I keep it cold? Does it have to be refrigerated? Do I have backup supplies of it? Do I have basic over-the-counter stuff? Do I have bandages, band-aids, tourniquets, you know, stethoscope, ways to take blood pressure, ways to treat, like antibiotics to treat, you know, infections, things like that. You know, so you build on your prepping, and that's what I've done over the years. I've built upon my prepping. Also, a big part of prepping, and a lot of people's channels are just focused on that, is defense, you know, tools to defend yourself with, if you will. Knives, firearms, different types of things that go along with that. Do you have the ability to defend your life, your family's lives, if and when you had to? And so that's a big topic for a lot of people, but a lot of people just focus on that, and they leave the food and the water and the other stuff, the hygiene stuff. It's not glamorous. They think, oh, just a lot of guns and ammo and I'm good to go. I'll be able to get anything I want. You can't eat your bullets, and without eating, without drinking water for 3 days, or eating for 3 weeks, you're going to expire. So you have to look at that kind of that pyramid of importance. And then a big thing now, and I'll close this video, and I'll talk more in other videos, but a big thing now is people that have lost their jobs. We're looking at, you know, real numbers, maybe a 20% unemployment rate. Every week since the pandemic started last March, we're looking at between 700,000 and 1 million people a week becoming unemployed. Entire business sectors being obliterated, like the hotel industry, restaurant industry, things like, you know, businesses like that. You know, that middle class seems to be being squeezed out, and there's only a lower class and a well-to-do class. And is that by design? Maybe it is, and we'll talk about that in other videos. But it's the reality that hits, that if that happens to you or me, can I weather that storm? Do I have a savings that's not just in a 401k, or, you know, somewhere where I can't really access it? Do I have, you know, tangible things that I own? Do I have real estate? Do I have bartering items? Do I have bullion like gold and silver? Am I diversified enough like that? Do I have skills that I could turn into making money on the side, or you know, in an emergency? You know, maybe I'm mechanically inclined in some field that I could turn that into dollars working for people and plying a trade. So these are all the things you have to be thinking about. And on top of everything else, we have a corrupt political system right now. It's broken. It's been broken. And I think it may have been broken on purpose in order to bring in a new system. And that's what a lot of my videos are going to focus on. This new economic system, that they might be planning, like a digital dollar, like a collapse of the current system, and a new system coming into play. And they've said this in through channels like the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, with Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, things like that. If you read into those, they basically tell you what the new world is going to look like, future. And it seems like we're moving faster towards that end, and what's happening is kind of not happening by accident, if you get my drift. So we'll talk about that in more videos. I wanted to give you a little bit of background on me. Just in closing, I'll be 58 years old, so I've seen a lot in my life so far, and I think I'm going to see a lot more. Hope and pray I do. But as long as I'm here, I will continue to fight the good fight. I don't put aside my beliefs because I have a certain type of channel. I am who I am, and so that's who you get when you see Big Anthony's videos. So that's what I have to say tonight. So thanks everyone for watching this. Thanks for joining my BitChute channel. I hope it's a successful channel, and I hope I can make it better. I'm getting some new computer equipment. I'm experimenting with some different things, and so hopefully it'll be a good channel, and BitChute won't be as harsh as YouTube is with talking about very important topics that are controversial but need to be talked about. So that's my video for tonight, March 6, 2021. Big Anthony signing off. Stay ready.